पूछ लो। Are we audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes.
Okay, so
Audible.
okay, thanks. So actually, so I'll talk about this relativistic formulation of this photon and electron. Since we talked a lot about photon and application as a photonics to science and other branches in the field. So today, actually, I'll give you a very basic idea. Okay, so what was the history of this photon and electron? How can you have a systematic theoretical formulation of this photon and electron interaction? So before actually we move to this relativistic formulation, it is actually correct way to know what is the earlier non-relativistic formulation of photon and electron. And also, I would like to draw your kind attention. So, what was already we have actually knew about this hydrogen atom. So, starting from Bohr-Rutherford model. So, then what are the other advances in that field in order to understand the orbits and further fine structures, and why Lambda is so important in this hydrogen spectrum, line spectrum. And so in order to understand this relativistic formulation of photon and electron, in order to understand this fine of hydrogen atom, so I would like to actually use few simple equations which you have already acquainted. So one of them is the Schrodinger equation. Okay, and another equation about how Schrodinger equation is modified and accommodate special theory of relativity. So that's the another new development in this field. Then what are the key contributions of Dirac, Pauli, and other gentlemen, including Lamb, who actually discovered this lamps of between two fine structure, fine lines of this hydrogen atom. So with this, let me start my talk. So Willis Lamb, let me give you a very brief historical biography about Lamb. So he was born on 12th July 1913 in Los Angeles, and as an undergraduate at the University of California, Berkeley. He studied chemistry, but soon he switched to physics to actually for his higher studies. Like many of his generations of physicists, Lamb did not follow Oppenheimer into the wartime atom bomb project. He concentrated on his specialism, microwaves radar at Columbia University, performing the experiments that culminated the observation of Lamb's shift. So Lamb, who died on 15th May at the age of 94, received the highest recognition in 1950 when he was awarded the half of the Nobel Prize Physics for his discovery of the Lamb shift. So this is, so we'll now talk about why Lamb shift, what is Lamb shift, what is the significance of Lamb shift, and how this Lamb shift or the fine structures of this hydrogen are actually used in various spectroscopy and its applied branches. So let me give you a very brief idea why actually Lamb thought this idea and actually discovered this Lamb shift. So in 1913, so Bohr proposed his quantized cell models. You know, so in atom, so your electrons are actually orbiting around this centrally positive nucleus, and Bohr actually proposed in the atom how to explain this of electron to have a stable orbits. And with this Bohr model, Bohr explained how electrons could jump from one orbit to another orbit only by emitting or absorbing energy in fixed quanta. You know, in last class also, Dr. Mahavir Sharma also explained what is this absorption, emission, and stimulated process when actually this photon actually interacts. It can be in our galaxy, our stars, or other exotic phenomena. So you have a basic idea starting from this Bohr idea and its application to various world phenomena. Now, with this Bohr idea, so Bohr only said, so the electron can actually orbit in a fixed stable orbits and with a energy. And this energy is given by this is inversely proportional to 1/n², which is the principal quantum number. So but with advances of technology, high resolution spectroscopy shows that individual spectral lines of hydrogen are divided into severally closed trace fine lines, which the Bohr model could not explain. So, in experiments, it is clearly established that hydrogen atom has severally closed trace lines, which Bohr's model could not explain. Now the question is, Bohr proposed some idea. So now we have a new observation. New observation could not explain our own established theory. Then actually that comes a new invention, new thought, new idea, which actually emerged in order to explain this experimental observation. So then German physicist Arnold Sommerfeld actually modified Bohr's theory by quantizing the shapes and orientation of orbits, introduce additional energy levels corresponding to these fine spectral lines. Then 1926, Schrödinger, with his profound Schrödinger equation, actually postulated that electrons in an atom should be treated like the waves on the drumhead. And when you actually solve this Schrödinger equation, you can actually have all different energy levels of these hydrogen atoms or other hydrogen-like atoms, which are identified with the simple vibrational modes of the wave equation. So again, Schrödinger, what he did, he actually added extra step to this Bohr's idea. With his Schrödinger equation, he could able to explain few energy levels of the atoms identified with this. You can actually wave equation of these vibrational modes. So now the question is still, because experiment further actually observed very few spectral lines of the hydrogen atom, still this Schrödinger equation is not sufficient to explain this origin of these spectral lines. So then in 1928, English physicist Paul Dirac introduced a new relativistic equation of the electron. Because of this, Schrödinger equation did not satisfy the principle of relativity. Now let me summarize for you. So what Bohr actually postulated, he postulated the stable orbits of the electron in an atom. So then there was a correction by Sommerfeld in order to accommodate spectroscopical result of fine structures of hydrogen atom. So then actually Schrödinger make an attempt with his Schrödinger equation to actually explain this further energy levels of the atom. But he could not, this Schrödinger could not explain all the fine structural lines of this hydrogen atom. Then actually Dirac actually come up with this new idea. So he said, let's look at this thing. Maybe Schrödinger equation is non-relativistic equation. So how we will prove that it is non-relativistic? If a equation is relativistic, it should actually invariant under the relativistic principle of relativity. So Schrödinger equation actually not satisfying the principle of relativity. And also lively, you can actually understood this Schrödinger equation, you know, H psi equal to E psi, where E is the total Hamiltonian of the system, psi the wave function of the system, E the energy of the system, and psi. So then what is the, if you make it in an operator form, you know, this quantum mechanics comes with this. Every observable actually can be defined in terms of operators. So if you expand this Hamiltonian operator is nothing but P square by 2m plus V. And this P square actually contains this space derivative. So P square contains second derivative in space. While this time, so which is I h cross del by del t, it contains the first order derivative. So that means in the one side, it is second order in second order derivative in space, and the other side it is first order derivative in time. So that means there is a mismatch. So that means the time and space and time are not treated equally. That's why Schrödinger equation is not invariant under the principle of relativity. So then now the question is, you know, electron is quantum mechanical particle, as well as it also moves very faster, close to the speed of light. Photon is also a quantum of light. It also moves with the speed of light. So with this very fast moving particles, So definitely we should accommodate special theory of relativity. So then the question was asked how to accommodate principle of relativity to Schrodinger equation. So now to audience, if you have any idea before actually move to this relativistic formulation of this photon. So let me ask question. So what will be the Schrodinger equation for photon? I have been gone through many applications of photon, electron, all these things. So let me ask very simple question. What is the Schrodinger, what will be the Schrodinger equation for photon?
Hello.
Yeah. Who is speaking? Can you introduce yourself and tell me? So
Hello, sir. Can I?
Yeah.
Minus, sir. Minus iota h cross upon del over del t equal to s psi. Psi equal to s psi. This is correct for photon also.
This is correct. This is not correct for photon because photon is a relativistic particle.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So now let me ask the other question. What will be, electron is moving freely in a crystal or in a solid. So what will be the Schrodinger equation for that? A free moving particle. How we can relate to this our quantum mechanics Schrodinger equation? What system? So particle, electron can be considered as a particle. It is freely moving.
Hello.
Yes.
So for electron, h square upon twice m e psi is equal to e minus v psi. Oh. And hello.
Yeah.
For photon, nh nu psi is equal to e psi.
So that means you are saying that for electron it is the same. So minus del square by 2m, there is a h cross and I is there. So minus del square by 2m, then psi plus the potential v psi equal to e psi, right?
Yes, sir. Or if it is there is no boundary, so time will be ih upon del psi by del t.
Yeah. So now you tell me what's wrong. Why you cannot use this equation for photon?
Sir, because photon are massless particles, so energy can be written as nh nu.
So now you got the point why you cannot write down p square by 2m for photon. So the other who is actually answering this question, we can write down the Schrodinger equation for photon. So photon we actually cannot because there will be a p square by 2m. M is in the denominator. So that's why for photon we have to actually write down the interaction in a different way. And if you remember, that's why if there is a connection from classical to actual quantum transition. Classical in Maxwell's equation, sometimes without actually checking the principles of relativity, we are using the Lagrangian of which actually involves the motion of the photon is minus 1/4 f mu nu, where f mu nu introduced del mu a nu minus del nu a mu, where a mu is the photon field. Okay, I guess have you heard about this term? F mu nu, where f mu nu is equal to del mu a nu minus del nu a mu. Have you heard about this term, kinetic energy term of this photon?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So now you see this Schrodinger equation, which is applicable to this electron. Let's say electron is freely moving electron. It's actually equivalent to a particle in a box with zero potential. Okay, and that we have gone through our when you revive our actual quantum mechanics and principle of quantum mechanics with this Schrodinger wave equation. But now now you see, we have to treat photon in a very careful manner so that we can actually deal with its motion, as well as also when you also deal with the interaction of photon with this electron. We are talking about when light shines on the matter, when light shines on the molecule, when light shines on the electron. So electron is emitted, ejected from a metal surface in photoelectric effect. But have you thought of what is the basic, okay, what is the basic equation which governs this interaction of photon with electron? So today actually I will give a glimpse of that. So how actually we can have a basic equation which can govern this interaction of photon with this electron. And this picture which are actually below, it is saying if you actually see these energy levels, okay, these energy levels if you plot, so for Bohr's model, it is actually plotted for different principal quantum numbers. So the energy levels are any, because energy is inversely proportional to 1 over n square. So actually for large n, so you have the energy levels are very closely stable, you can get the classical results. But if you go to this Schrodinger equation, you see there is a for particular principal quantum number, there is also orbital quantum number. Let's say for n equal to 1, so the L can goes from 0 to n minus 1. So accordingly, so S will, the orbital angular momentum will be S for n equal to 1. So that's why you have a 1s state. So let's say for n equal to 2, the L can go from 1 and 2, so that you have a S and P orbitals. So similarly, if you have a n equal to 3, you can have a L equal to 0, 1, 2, so that you have a S, P, D orbitals. I'm not going to these detailed technical things, but I am just giving the idea how this energy levels and orbitals and other Einstein constants actually you can have a conceive this idea. So now what happens, Dirac actually what he did, he introduced the spin. He introduced the concept of spin. He said actually spin is an intrinsic property of a fermion, which is electron being a fermion. So you have to account the spin of the electron when you are talking about interaction of electron with this. If you introduce now spin, so let us say this 1s half. So there is n is the principal quantum number, s is for L equal to 0, and half is for spin. So similarly in 2, so you can say there is a 2s and 2p. So when you have a L equal to 0, and then there will be LS coupling. Just if you remember, there is a addition of this orbital angular momentum and spin angular momentum. Then you see S for S, L equal to 0, spin itself is half. So 0 plus half, if you vectorially add, you will only get half. So that's why there will be only one 2s half. And there is a 2p half and 2p 3 by 2. How can you understand this? For 2, there is a 2 is both sides same, that is a principal quantum number. And there is a p which is the L equal to 1. And why there is a half and 3 by 2? Can anybody answer? This is the simple angular momentum algebra addition. You have an angular momentum quantum number, you have a spin angular momentum quantum number. For p orbitals, the angular momentum is L equal to 1 and the spin of the electron is half. So what could be the resultant? Suppose two electron having
L is equal to J plus S is 3 by 2.
J plus S 3 by 2. Then why half is there additional?
Hello, number J, the value of J is 0 to from L plus S 3 by 2 and 1 by 2, both values.
So actually your answer is exactly, you are right. So actually the J, which is the sum of L plus S, can go, since it's a vector quantity, you can add it vectorially. The vectorially you can say J, it can go from L plus S mod up to L minus S mod with the unit difference. So since the L plus S mod value is 3 by 2, L minus mod value is 1 minus half is half. So and there is only two possibilities there. One is 2a 2p half, another is 2p 3 by 2. So now you can say, sir, we have talked about Bohr, we have talked about Schrodinger equation, we have talked about Dirac. So here is the Lamb shift. So now the Lamb shift actually further, actually what Lamb did, he actually considered he observation where actually he took some atom and also get its electronic excitement state up till 2s half and 2p half. So what is Dirac theory is predicting? So that means once you excite the electron into 2s half and 2p half, when they actually make a transition to actually bring back to their original state, she will expect the emission, they will emit a photon with the same energy, because 2s half and 2p half is predicted to be the same energy levels in Dirac theory. But Lamb first time proposed that actually the 2s half, the energy levels corresponds to 2s half and 2p half. They are actually not same. There is a clear difference between these two levels, and these two difference between two levels actually leads to the observation of Lambsheet and his award of Nobel Prize. And this was actually used in many actually spectroscopy calculations. So with this basic idea, let's actually go further. So what is this Lambsheet? So this point is clear. How actually we developed our theory on the energy levels and fine structures of hydrogen, how theory gets corrected with time, and how people come up with their own idea, established with experiments, and there will be modifications keep on going to have further corrections. So is it clear to all?
Yes, sir.
So even after Schrödinger and Dirac's model explaining the atomic model, electron picture, the experimental finding hinted towards a shift of certain atomic energy levels from levels given by Dirac and Klein-Gordon equation. Let me see what is the difference between this Dirac and Klein-Gordon equation from this Schrödinger equation. Schrödinger equation is an equation which is valid for non-relativistic regime for quantum mechanical particles. Dirac equation is a equation of all the quantum mechanical particles which are actually moving faster close to the speed of light, and satisfying the principle of special theory of relativity. So this Dirac equation is the Schrödinger equation plus invariance from special theory of relativity. It's the modification of Schrödinger equation accommodating special theory of relativity. That's in a simpler way Dirac equation. So but this modification of this Schrödinger equation by Dirac and Klein-Gordon cannot fully explain why these 2s half and 2p half have different energy levels. Even if we talk about this spin orbit coupling L plus S, we are expecting the 2s half and 2p half have the same energy levels. But why there is a shift? So this is actually, though it was observed in the experiment, but it was not addressed by theory. What could be the origin of this? What could be the explanation for this shifting? So this theoretical impasse broken as a result of measurement carried out in 1946 and 1947 by American physicist Willis Lamb discovered that 2p half state is slightly lower than the 2s half, resulting in a slight shift of the corresponding spectral line, which would generally referred as Lamb shift, accounting for the interaction between electron and the vacuum, which is not accounted by the Dirac equation. So maybe this vacuum is a very abstract terminology for you. So it's like when you apply electric field, you know, this molecules, their polarization changes in the inside molecules. So similarly, actually in quantum mathematical tool of quantum field theory, okay, which were actually used this relativistic formulation of this elementary particle, it is saying that actually Dirac actually have an explanation that every particle, okay, gets a quantum correction with the neighboring sea of particle, antiparticles and photons. This is the great postulation of this Dirac sea, and he related this to the vacuum. So he said vacuum is always there in a hidden treasure, and it always actually gives virtually it gives a correction to this particles. Okay, and depending upon its correction, if the correction is very small, you can neglect it. If the correction is reasonable, you can actually observe in experiment. And he said the vacuum with the sea of electron and positron and photon, they can correct the electron's interaction property and they can change the energy split. They can actually give us energy splitting between this 2s half and 2p half. Now you say, sir, can you actually convince this idea of this interaction of electron with the vacuum? So let's go back to this our quantum mechanics. In quantum mechanics, we know, let's say harmonic oscillator. We are talking about harmonic oscillator with a simple Schrodinger equation, SI equal to E psi, where SI equal to P square by 2m plus half m omega square x square. So, but you know that there are phenomena which cannot explain with this ideal harmonic oscillator problem. You need corrections, and in order to actually explain the phenomena, you have added additional anharmonic term. If you remember in your quantum mechanics part 2, so you have half m omega square x cube term. Similarly, you can actually get correction to this ideal Schrodinger equations for bound states or other systems using the WKB approximation, variational principles. So that means, you know, in quantum mechanics always correct pictures of which phenomena occurs in nature. They are actually not the ideal Schrodinger equation of the system, and it gets corrections from other terms. So actually these corrected terms actually have a real physical meaning from quantum field theory, or when it applied this principle of relativity with this nomenclature called vacuum. So this is naively I am saying what is the meaning of vacuum, but vacuum have a very deep meaning when you actually talking about the special formulation of quantum field theory in elementary particles. But Dirac said, okay, every particle is associated with a hidden treasure of vacuum, which is a sea of particle antiparticles and photon, and because of this sea, the electron's property or other particles property gets modified. So that's the simplest idea of this. And this with this idea, Lamb and Rutherford used the microwave techniques to determine the splitting between 2s half and 2p half states in hydrogen. So you said that how we can do that? What they did, they considered 2K atom, and they used their detailed techniques. Actually, they used to actually pump and provide the energy so that the electron can go at one time at a 2s half state and other time at a 2p half states, and then the transition makes. And if the transition, if the 2s half and 2p half states are same, if have a correspond to same energy, and the emitted energy they observed in the experiment, so they should be same. So that's like in Rayleigh scattering and Raman scattering I explained yesterday. If we expect the incident wavelength of the emitted photon or the scattered photon is the same of that incident photon, when it interacts in a molecule, then you expect that scattering is Rayleigh scattering. But when the scattering actually this difference emitted photon energy is different from this incident photon, then you expect there is a Raman scattering. So it's exactly same. So you excite the electron in an atom with your techniques, available experimental techniques. First you go take it to 2s half state, second time you take it to 2p half states, and you allow them for this transition so that they can come back to the original state, and you measure what will be the energy in this transition. And they actually measure the energy energy emitted between these two transitions are completely different. And they perform this experiment repeatedly, and they establish that it might seem that such a tiny effect would be deemed insignificant, but in this case, that's the depth of our understanding of electromagnetic theory. So they have quantified the splitting of these two energy levels is 4 into 10 to the power minus 6 eV. So now we see the binding energy of hydrogen atom actually minus 13.6 electron eV. So 13.6 electron eV, this is one order. Now the splitting with these fine structures. Now you can see how the finer lines in the hydrogen atom, how they are actually closely splitted. Okay, and when you see naively, it looks like all the energy levels are actually continuous. But actually, when you perform experiment, you can actually measure these teeny splittings between these closely spaced lines, and that's actually they established their observations, and that observation was reportedly known as Lamb shift between 2s and 2p half states in hydrogen atom. So actually, if you want to actually refer how these 2s and 2p half actually have different energy, So actually go back to my lecture notes. So there is I actually made the derivation such way that how you can starting from the non-relativistic Schrodinger equation, you can actually write down a Dirac equation. So Dirac equation, now you need to introduce the interaction of photon with the Dirac equation. So once you introduce the presence of Dirac equation of electron in presence of electromagnetic field. So there actually, once you do some calculation, there you can actually from non-relativistic limits, you can verify, it can bring back to you Schrodinger equation for Pauli equation, because Pauli equation actually explain the spin of this particle, spin of the electron, which was experimentally actually confirmed by Stern-Galak. Okay, so Pauli equation is the theoretical basis of this Stern-Galak experiment to explain this observation. So just have a look at those theory, because being a particle physics, I mostly this dynamics of these elementary particles, electrons, protons, neutrons, photon. So what will be the implication of those elementary particles in other unsolved mysteries of the universe, including dark matter, or why and other why this discovery of this God particle, ghost particle, and there are other which are discovered timely in Large Hadron Collider and other experiments. So please go through this lecture. So now let's talk about Zeeman effect and Stark effect. So let me tell you. So Zeeman effect is the effect of magnetic field to this Schrodinger equation of hydrogen atom. So it can also applicable to other hydrogen-like atoms. So Zeeman effect, you can say the effect of magnetic field, and in order to understand the splitting of energy levels of this hydrogen atom. So there, and Stark effect on the other hand, it is the effect of electric field. Okay, is the extra effect of the electric field to this splitting of hydrogen atoms energy levels. So let's understand. So in the left figure, this if you do not apply no magnetic field, with zero magnetic field, if you supply energy by shine light, so that means the electron can go from ground state to excited state. So that was demonstrated. The electron absorbs this photon energy with frequency nu0 and goes to excited state UE. So if there will be no magnetic field, you can understand whether this energy level is splitting further or not. So now you switch on this magnetic field. So once you switch on this magnetic field, immediately you will see that actually magnetic field under this effect of Zeeman effect actually splits these energy levels into further. So actually it will split with a positive amount mb by root 2 with a negative of mb, actually it is mu b by root 2. So this is actually the beauty of this actually Zeeman effect to explain the further splitting of this energy levels in hydrogen. But what you said, sir, if Zeeman effect and Stark effect, so they are actually enough to explain this splitting, but they cannot explain this splitting up between this 2s half and 2p half. And here also, let me also tell you, this Zeeman effect and Stark effect like ad hocly imposed. So when you say ad hocly imposed, so that means you just add a potential term to your Schrodinger equation and solve it, and you trying to explain your energy corrections. But that is, you don't know how this term comes, what is the origin of this magnetic interaction, what is the origin of this electric interaction. Effect of electric field and effect of magnetic field actually uniformly explained in the relativistic formulation of photon with its interaction of electron. So that's the relativistic formulation, which is actually my talk is actually deal with. So let's go to this right side. So how you can understand? So if you talk about Bohr model, let's say for principal quantum number n and n equal to 2, n equal to 3, you only expect two lines. So now if you talk about Schrodinger and Dirac equation, in the next column, what you will x, the n equal to 2 further splitted, P3 by 2, S half, P half. And this n equal to 3, how can you, this is also a very good exercise. So using the idea of principal quantum number, orbital angular momentum, spin angular momentum, and its vectorial addition, you can prove that for n equal to 3, you can have the energy levels d5 by 2, P3 by 2, D3 by 2, S half, P half. Similarly, for n equal to 2, you have a energy level splitting for like P3 by 2, S half, and P half. And you see, using there are two lines, they further split, okay, and these further P and D, so they actually further splits using these fine structures, using this the effect of this electric and magnetic field. So, and this effect of electric magnetic field in theory can be understood with this relativistic formulation. So this is the demonstration how the Stark effect and magnetic effect can actually further split the energy levels of this hydrogen atom. So let's go back to this, how this Lamb actually determine this splitting between 2s half and 2p half. So he actually calculated this n equal to 1. So this is the hydrogen energy levels. If you talk about these lines are depicted with the increase of this principal quantum number, and if first, let's say electron goes to a n equal to 2 excited states and it jumps back to this n equal to 1 state and emitting a photon, and this energy you can calculate 13.6 1 minus 1 by 4 eV, which is 10.2 electron volt. So this will the emitted electron will have this much of energy. So now you can also study all other transitions and what is the splitting and what will be the fine structures involved there. And it is actually found that in the right panel, so how actually corrections to this ideal or this original Hamiltonian, okay, so can actually lead to all these fine structure constants. So let's demonstrate. So this first lines, which is equal to n equal to 2. So n equal to 2, if we only talk about Schrodinger equation with the tree-level Hamiltonian and this Coulomb potential, okay, so then you will say there is only one orbit n equal to 2. So now let's go back to n, how we can further split this 2p and 2s level. So then you have to introduce this correction term. So H0 plus V Coulomb and plus minus P4 by 8 MQ by C square. So how we can do this thing? Actually, this you can actually, this correction can be understood. So you can actually make a binomial correction to this relativistic energy E equal to P square by 2M plus P square C square plus M square C4. Then you can actually binomially expand this. Then actually you can get a correction to this kinetic term. And this correction to this kinetic term actually gives the splitting bit of this n equal to 2 orbits to into different 2p and 2s orbitals. So now this is up to, you have a Hamiltonian, you have a Coulomb potential, and you have a correction to this kinetic term. So now if you add more corrections, okay, so then what you introduce? Then you introduce Dirac. So Dirac, what he did, he actually solved this equation. He get H0, Coulomb potential, correction to kinetic energy term. Then he introduced this spin orbit and Darwin. So this will explain your further splitting of this 2p3 by 2, 2p half and 2s half. This is up to Dirac theory. But Dirac theory still cannot explain here why this 2p half and 2s half have the different energy. So Dirac theory predicts you see 2p half and 2s half have the same energy. So in the right, extremely right column, you see once you add this Zeeman effect to this spin orbit coupling Darwin term, which is the correction to this Coulombic interaction. So every correction you have a name. So the in the extreme right column, in the below you see there is H equal to H0 plus Coulombic interaction. This is the and then there is a correction to this kinetic term. Then the correction from spin orbit coupling. Then is a correction from Coulomb potential. There is a correction to this magnetic field or Zeeman. Correct. If you incorporate all, then only you can explain there is a splitting, further splitting between this 2p half and 2s half, and this actually explains this Lamb shift, which actually predicted in experiment. There is indeed a split of 10 to the minus 6 eV between 2s half and 2p half. So that's the key essence of my talk. So as I told you, what Lamb and Rutherford experiment actually did, he actually took a oven, and he actually heated and tried to excite one of the atomic electronic levels to this 1s half and 2s half, and then 2s half to 2p half, and actually using those techniques, he actually then measured what will be the splitting when it goes corresponding to 2s half and corresponding to 2. And he actually measured the emission, the corresponding energy from this 2s half transition and 2p half transition are actually different, and they noted down this splitting, and they performed the experiment repeatedly, not only in their lab, they also in other lab, and they conclude that there is a shift of energy between this 2s half and 2p half, and founded that 2s half and 2p half are not the same energy levels, they have a different fine structures, fine splittings between these hydrogen atoms. So that is all about experimental efforts in Lamb shift measurements. So while the Lamb shift is extremely small, difficult to measure as a splitting in the optical UV spectral lines, it is possible to make use of transition directly between the sublevels by going to the other regions of electromagnetic spectrum. So what Lamb made his measurement of the shifts in the microwave region, he firstly thermally dissociated molecular hydrogen, then a jet of atom was cross-bombarded by an electron stream. One part in 900 million atoms is excited to 2s half and many more to 2p half. Then transition from this 1s half to 1s half to 2p half and 2s half states. This transition, when this actual electron from this excited to again go back to this 2s half, they actually measured their energy, and this measured energy actually be different. Putting the atoms in the magnetic field to split the levels by the Zeeman effect. He exposed to this microwave radiation of this particular frequency. So according to Dirac theory, these 2s half and 2p half states are degenerate, but Lamb measured this shift. So then the Lamb actually proposed and his work to and published, and he asked, so is there any explanation to this shift? And then actually it was found or profound that Dirac, if you introduce Zeeman effect to this Dirac theory, modified Dirac theory, then only you can explain theoretically this precise observation result of this splitting between these 2s half and 2p half is 10 power minus 6 eV. And you said last time actually when I was talking this Professor C.V. Raman, when actually he's returning from London to Bombay in this Mediterranean Sea, he actually thinking, is this the blue color of sky is only because of the reflection of the sky, or is there something else which is actually hidden for this blue color of this sea? So similarly here, so when actually Lambert actually talked about this theory, what could be the explanation of this Lamb shift? He argued that electron in the hydrogen atom from the Maxwell's electromagnetic field, when it interacts with as a photon, so that fluctuation effects in Maxwell field actually disturbing the electron, and it gives to the correction and somehow may be related to this Lamb shift. So then Lamb presented his findings in great minds of physicists like Schwinger, Oppenheimer, and Wyckoff, who actually suggested actually there could be a correction to this Dirac theory with the vacuum. So vacuum C, which is comprises of hidden treasure of particle and antiparticles and photon messenger particles, and actually they formulated this theory of this Lamb shift. So let me this is like just C.V. Raman figured out the Raman effect in C. Boyd. Hence Vaidya did a non-relativistic calculation to account for the Lamb shift in the hydrogen atom on a train journey. So I will also share some great story about Vaidya shared in one of his interview. On the 75-mile train ride home to Schenectady, New York, from the conference, Vaidya did a non-relativistic calculation using the second order perturbation theory. You know this first order perturbation theory, second order perturbation theory in non-relativistic. So he did the second order perturbation theory assuming an interaction vacuum field arising from a minimal coupling. So he did very simple calculation. You see how this brilliant discovery actually come from a very simple idea. So and a very elegant mind. So what he did, he took this Schrodinger equation for hydrogen atom, and he took there will be some first order correction from this WKB approximation variational methods. Also in the second order calculation, he actually used assuming the interaction of the electron of this vacuum with a non-minimal coupling. This calculation predicted that the interaction of electron with this vacuum field would lead to a shift of this amount of emitted photon with this energy, and that's actually matches with this Lambda-Shift result. So what he conclude at the conference, I said myself, I can do that. On the train, I figured out how much the difference might be. I had to remember the interaction of the electromagnetic quanta with the electron. I am not sure about a factor or two. So the first thing I did when I came to the library at General Electric was to look up Hitler's book on radiation theory. I found that indeed I had remembered the number correctly, and that I got 1000 megahertz between these energy splittings. So in Dirac pair theory, energy of an electron only diverges logarithmically when I get to high energy. So I said to myself, once I take the difference between bound electron and free electron from the logarithmic divergence will probably disappear and it will converge. So let's just calculate the effect of quanta up to the energy of the electron, mass times c squared. Let's hope that relativistic correction won't make. So he proposed his calculation, and he also concluded my calculation is almost correct to this relativistic corrections. So up to very closely. So Dirac also called this result the most important calculation in physics for decades. Feynman Dyson also described it as a turning point in the history of physics. It broke through the thicket of skepticism and opened the way to the modern era of particle physics. Actually, it gives a new thinking in the revolution in the particle physics, like in the after this blackbody radiation. Okay, it's inability of classical mechanics to explain this observation of this blackbody radiation, which are also talked in morning session by Mahavir. Okay, so why there is an idea of Planck, why there is an concept, why there is a discovery of modern physics. So similarly, this Lambda-Shift actually have given a smoking gun to this physicist or among the scientific community, which actually pave a part to this modern era of particle physics. So that's why people thought about more on. So what would be the vacuum concept in the elementary particles? How these relativistic things can be accounted correctly. So it showed us how he showed us how all to connect this quantum electrodynamics. So quantum electrodynamics is nothing but the interaction of electron with the photon in a relativistic principles. So with this real world, in his Nobel lecture, Feynman called Bethes calculations the most important discovery in history of quantum electrodynamics. And actually, Lamb actually calculated, observed this effect up to 10 to the power minus 6 decimal points. So can you, we people are doing our experiments in solid state, photonics, other things. Have you observed any measurements which your theory is so precise up to 10 to the minus 6 decimal points? Can you name one result? And most another thing, this quantum electrodynamics with theory of electron with the photon in a relativistic formalism also predicted the G minus 2 calculation up to 10th decimal points. If the theory matches with the observation with the 10th decimal points, so that's established why quantum electrodynamics so successful, why people believe actually there is more actually deep understanding needed in order to actually know the elementary particles and their dynamism. So this is all about actually how this Bethes non-relativistic approach actually integrate other physicists to actually think about this quantum electrodynamics, and they actually propose this Lambda is nothing but the electron energy gets a self energy correction, and this self energy correction can be understood. Electron is surrounded with a vacuum, and vacuum is a sea of electron, positron, and photon. So let's say you as a electron actually make a hidden interaction with this photon for a short period of time, and the photon can actually again emit goes to this another excited electron states. So and there is a correction to this electron self energy, and this self energy can explain this Lamb shift. So this is actually they calculated these results of this QD and this contribution to this Lamb shift. So this Lamb shift actually they estimated in terms of their known parameters of this quantum non-relativistic quantum mechanics and their relativistic corrections, and they could actually explain this splitting between 2s hub and 2p hub. So this is how exactly theoretically they calculated this total corrections from as 1000 megahertz, which was actually observed in their experiments performed by Lamb and Rutherford. So this is some mathematical. I would like to. I'm not going to go through this detailed technical derivations, but there is some mathematical formalism which actually concluded to this Lamb shift. In a nutshell, actually, we find the lowest loop level arrive at Lamb shift to within 6 megahertz accuracy. So higher order correction have been calculated, and they have been actually reduced the error. So theoretically, the 2s hub level is above the 2p hub energy level by 1057 megahertz. So experimental result is 1057.862 megahertz. So that's why this theory and experimentally closely matching together, and thus establish actually there is a splitting between this 2s hub and 2p hub energy levels of hydrogen atom, and that's the well proof of this Lamb shift. And in last 2 slides, I will conclude my talk. So I will conclude my talk how this Lamb shift, okay, and this basic idea of Lamb shift, how it is connected to this recent biggest discovery of our nature. So recently in June 2021, there is a biggest discovery, we'll say that this is the biggest observation from this formula. So actually what they measured, so when an electron is orbiting or electron is interacting with a photon, so in the relativistic formalism, so there is a spin gyromagnetic ratio, and this spin G factor is actually different from 2. And this is a well-established factor in case of electron. So the theory for this electron with photon was established by quantum electrodynamics. So now there is a cousin of electron. So how can you show that there is a cousin of electron? Have you heard about muon? Have you heard about muon particle? Any idea what are the particles you actually you know till now? Because being a photonics conference, I actually maybe most of have heard about electrons, photons, and other things. Have you heard about the other particles? Any answer?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Pion, electrons, muons,
Muons, others?
hyperions,
Hyperons, ions.
ions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So actually you are right. So muons, and actually there are other particles, pions, hyperons. There is a sigma particle, cascade particle, omega baryons. There are so many hundreds of particles which are actually, if you see every few months, a Large Hadron Collider discovers a particle in last 2 decades. So there is a charm particle, there is top quark, that also up quark, down quark, top quark, beauty, bottom, top. So many particles are discovered. So and one of these elementary particles is the cousin of electron. So why it is cousin of electron? So electron is being a lightest matter particle. Actually, we till now we know and we actually observed, and also it is speculated there is a ghost particle which is also believed to be a matter particle. We call it as a neutrino. Okay, if you remember, neutrino as actually introduced when you talk about radioactive beta decay. Okay, when a neutron is changing, okay, to proton and electron inside a bound nucleus. So it is so happen that the energy momentum is not conserved. Then Pauli pointed out that there is a third particle which is needed to explain this conservation in this radioactive beta decay. That third particle is neutrino, and at that time it was believed neutrino is a massless particle. But recently there are so many interesting Nova, T2K in Japan, other in USA. So they confirmed that the neutrino has non-zero mass. So million times the smaller than the electron mass. So similar to this electron, muon is a cousin of this electron in the same family, which you call as a light particle or lepton particle. So it has mass 200 times the mass of electron. If you say electron mass in terms of EV, electron mass is 0.51 mega electron volt. So then muon mass is 105 mega electron volt. So people are saying that if you can make a study of this hydrogen atom with the study of electrons, so can you study atoms and with this cousin muon, cousin electron, cousin brother muon? Okay, so if you can actually explain this cousin brother muon, and you can study the effect of electric field and magnetic field to this cousin muon, so let's do that. Okay, so can you have some idea about this muon G-2, which was actually established for electron G-2? So actually in this year only, so the experimental group are Fermilab. If you see, this is a muon G-2 setup. This is a muon G-2 storage ring. So muon beam actually is controlled way. It was allowing to actually rotate in this ring, and they apply external magnetic field, and they see what will the effect of magnetic field to this muon G-2, and they found that this observation actually slightly different from this theoretical calculation of this muon G-2. You said, sir, how we can calculate theoretically? Then the same thing. So muon, if you treat muon being a non-relativistic particle, go back to your Schrödinger equation. If you treat muon being a relativistic particle, you introduce Dirac equation. If you want to introduce the small correction, then you study this Zeeman effect and other Darwin effects to this Dirac equation in presence of electromagnetic field, or in our layman language, in applying external electric field and magnetic field in the experimental setup. So and the discovery of Lamb shift actually started a trend from physicists to refine the value of G factor, which leads to this discovery of this muon G-2. So this is thus the source of recent advances in the finding of this muon G-2 value can be traced back to the discovery of Lamb shift. So what is the significance of Lamb shift? When the Lamb shift was experimentally determined, it provided a high precision of verification of theoretical calculation made with the quantum theory of electrodynamics. So when I say electrodynamics, so it is these calculations predicted that electrons continually exchange photons, this being the mechanism by which the electromagnetic force acted. The effect of the continuous emission absorption of photon on the electron G factor could be calculated with great precision, and it can be matched with the experimental results. The tiny Lamb shift measured with great precision agreed to many decimal places to calculate result actually bring back to the development of quantum electrodynamics. The measured precision gives us the electron in G-2 up to 10th decimal point. So this is what I was talking about, the great success of quantum electrodynamics. Quantum electrodynamics is a systematical theoretical tool to understand the interaction of electron with photon. Systematically, theoretically, to understand the interaction of electron with photon. So they actually measured this experimental result with this theoretical up to 10th decimal point. I don't know what other results in other branch of science which has actually predicted the results up to so precisely, up to that much of decimal points. So also after the experimental discovery of lamp shape, I think LIGO now actually have gone to a very precise results. But I think they need very sensitive detection principle to actually see this discovery of these gravitational waves. So that is also that also requires very deep understanding to about this the theory. So also after this experimental discovery of lamp shift, Feynman, Schwinger, and actually Tomaga, so who shared this 1965 Nobel Prize for Physics, developing a new theory called quantum electrodynamics to explain all the measurement to a very high precision. So apparently quantum electrodynamics provides a complete theory of how electrons behave under electromagnetic as of now. So with this, I will conclude my talks. So thank you so much for hearing. I hope my talk will give a very basic idea as to how, starting from both, how we can extend the energy of the calculus. Thank you.
Hello, someone has switched on their microphone. So can you please keep the microphones off for once? So we thank Dr. Sudharma Patra for this really interesting talk, very informative. And the floor is now open for discussion. So please feel free to come in, comment, ask your doubts, questions, or if you want to add something. Hello, we are open for discussion. So if you want to add something, you want to ask something, then please feel free to. You can also type in the chat box and we will take up the questions from there.
So maybe for interested, I want to add one story behind this relativistic formalism of these elementary particles. So during my PhD tenure, I actually in 2010, I visited Belgium. So there is a Brussels University. So actually, I just going from one room to other room to just cross-checking. So what the professors, being a PhD students, I just curious. So what the professors in the department, so what field they are working. So then I came to know that Professor Peter Higgs. So he's actually sitting in one of the room and he's actually doing some calculations. Then actually at that time I did not actually interacted with him. I just saw him. Then actually after 2 years, so during my PhD time, then actually I found actually Large Hadron Collider from CERN Geneva. He actually discovered actually this experiment collaboration, so which involves 27 countries, 8,000 engineers and scientists. So they actually this collaborative experiment discovered this God particle, which will popularly called as Higgs particles. Okay, so Higgs boson. So when this Higgs boson was discovered, so then actually I again immediately remind. So actually the board, the nameplate on that time, okay, so this Professor Peter Higgs. So you see sometimes when you actually encountered, when you come across with events or people, sometimes we cannot give that much of attention, but these things actually play a very vital role in your life or in scientific community, or that can lead to different time actually exciting events in your community. So that's very interesting. So I think another event actually in this how this relativistic formulation of this electron with photon systematically actually handled, because there is saying this vacuum, which is a sea of this particle, antiparticles, and photon. So they systematical they gives correction to this electrons behavior properties. And in theory, initially when this calculated relativity using this relativity, they found that calculation actually comes with a additional divergent part. So people have no idea how to systematically actually extract this divergent part, which has actually also occurred in Bede's calculation. So then actually Professor Tup, he actually proposed his renormalization theory in this quantum electrodynamics, which actually brought him to Nobel Prize in the field of physics in 2005. So for his beautiful development of this renormalization theory in this for elementary particles. So the electron and photon being elementary particles, so his theory actually aptly actually required to understand various intriguing phenomena which was needs deep explanation, which we are actually applying in our daily life or in the other branches of science. To understand different phenomena occurring in solid state physics, condensed matter physics, particle physics, nuclear physics, and other engineering or biology also. We actually need those explanations. So I think that's a story how actually come up with these discoveries. These are the stories. So thank you.
Sir, can I ask one question also?
Yeah.
Hello,
I
I am
think-
audible. Sir,
Yeah, you are right.
I am audible? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sir, you have explained the lamp shift in a hydro. Hello, I am audible, sir.
Yes.
So please introduce yourself. Just tell your name once.
Yes, sir. Okay. Myself is Dr. Mahesh Chandra Sharma from IIS University, Jaipur.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello.
Now go ahead.
Okay. Sir, you have explained the lamps and in a atomic and molecular, I can say in a hydrogen atom. Sir, you have shown the theoretical calculation of the lamp shift in a hydrogen atom. Is it possible we can calculate the lamp shift in an experimental method? You can give give a example one of the experiment.
So you mean how experimental, how to calculate how this experiment was performed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So as I said, as I said, so what they did, so they actually took an oven and they used some atoms and they excite that atoms. Okay. So and they with this excited atom, so they actually what are the excitement? They actually take this electron from 1s half state to 2s half and 2p half states. And they actually study the transitions of these 2s half and 2p half energy levels, and from that. Yeah, but your question is what exact experimental actually methodology they have used. So that actually I have not actually included here. So you can actually for details you can actually go to this paper of this Lamb and Rutherford.
Okay.
Yeah. So calculation means what you need. So what way they actually techniques.
Yeah, exactly, sir. What technique they have used for the calculation of the lamps?
Yeah, I think I think this is this perylon and other frequency. There's so many stuffs are there. So in the detail electronics and other things. So I actually have not touched on that. So that's required a detailed development of this lamp shift observations.
Okay. Because
But that's a good question.
we
This
have
is a good question. This is a good question, and it is if you are interested, one should have a look at this detailed experimental observation. So how they systematically actually.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, sir, when I speak also Hindi, basically हम ये पढ़ते रहते हैं कि सर के lamp shift we have calculated in molecular physics by theoretical basis, but in last MSc in my last batch, one of the students he asked me, sir, any experiment is available, how we can calculate the experiment? That's why same question I have repeated because I don't know, sir. I am not a theoretician, means high energy physics person.
No, no, this is not this. For this, you don't require high energy physics. This is Raman told us. You should always keep on asking the right question. Okay, so nature will give you enough opportunity to address your question, and someday you come up with the answer to this question.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, I will try to. Sir. Okay, thank you.